Okay, this is our second vid in native JavaScript, scripting document, and scripting CSS. In this vid, we're going to cover the query selector, tree style navigation, attribute selectors, and image manipulation. So the query selector, this is the real kind of jQuery type stuff that we're reproducing in native JavaScript without jQuery. You could do something like document.querySelectorAll, and then just kind of throw in jQuery style selectors, .class, pound, ID, you could do multiple selectors, stuff like that. Notice that I'm throwing a 0 at the end of this because it's returning an array-like object, like we were in the last video, getting a lot of those array-like objects. So here we're asking for all elements with the class of test class 1, and then we're out of that list. We're going to grab the first element, and we're going to console log the attribute of that. And it's giving us cat.ping, so that's good. Okay. Similarly to query selector all, there's something called query selector. So query selector all will grab all elements of the specified type on the page and give you an array-like object. Query selector will just grab the first element of that type. So when we're just grabbing, when we just have one element on the page of the type, that's totally cool. So we're going to do dot test class 1. And we're not using the array notation with 0 to grab the first element. Okay, now like I said, you can use like multiple selectors. So here we have a div with another div inside and an image. And we're going to say, give me test. So the first div is called test div ID. Second one is called test div class. So this is ID test div ID. This one's class test div class, and our image has a class of test image class. So in our query selector all request, we're saying test div ID div.test div class, and then class test image class. So this is the kind of stuff you could do in jQuery, except that we're using that array notation to grab the first element, and it's giving us the source again. Same thing with query selector. You can do a pretty complicated selector request. Notice I'm not using the 0. Okay, so now we can get into tree style navigation of DOM stuff. So like in jQuery, you can ask for child and parent, stuff like that. In native JavaScript, it's not quite as eloquent. Here we have to ask for first element child. So we're grabbing the element with the ID, with the ID of div1, and then we're grabbing the first element child inside, which of course would be this p1. Yeah, and it grabs howdy. That's p1. We can also do last element child, and it grabs partner. We can do previous element sibling. So here if we grab the second element and then ask for the previous element sibling, it'll grab us the selector above. And we can also do next element sibling. Okay, let's talk about attribute selectors. So here, when we grab the element of cat, we can ask for its ID without doing anything crazy like class name or anything like that. We could just do .id, and it'll give us the ID of that element, and it gives us cat. So this is pretty handy. We can do a lot of stuff with this sort of straight attribute selector, this attribute property. We can do class name, which we did before. So here we're just saying .class name. And notice the last one was .id, and this one is .class name, not .class. That's because class is a protected word in JavaScript. It's already used by the JavaScript language, so they had to change it a little bit, so they just made a class name. It returns test class 1. We can also do .source. So pretty much you can grab attributes in this way. You just grab the attribute name. Here we're going to just grab the width property in the same way. Now in the last vid, I talked about get attribute. You can grab an element and just do dot get attribute. Here we're grabbing the width. You can also do set attribute. So here I'm grabbing this image element, and then I'm setting the width attribute to 473, which is the same as the height. So instead of being a rectangle now, it'll be a square. So here's the original image. When I refresh, I get this super long image where the width's the same dimension as the height. You can also ask for has attribute. You're just saying, hey, does this have a width attribute in this case? And it'll return true because it does have a width attribute. You can also do remove attribute. So here I'm saying, hey, take this attribute and just get rid of the thing. So if I switch to elements here, you can see that this doesn't have a width attribute anymore, even though it does in the HTML because I removed it in the JavaScript. Okay, let's talk about the data set property. So in HTML5, you have these wonderful data attributes, and you can customize it to anything you want. In this case, we've done data-breed, and we're saying equals Persian. So this is just a way to slip extra info into your HTML and keep it in the markup instead of putting it in the JavaScript or something else like that. So you access that in the JavaScript by just doing .dataset. That'll give you if you already have an element, do .dataset on that element, and then you'll have all the data attributes, and then just do whatever's after the hyphen, just do .that. So we're doing .dataset.breed, and it gives us Persian because our data breed equals Persian. And here's a way to set that data breed, to set that data attribute. Here we're doing dataset.breed equals Scottish fold. And if I switch to elements, you can see data breed equals Scottish fold here. Okay. So we're talking about attribute selectors and stuff like that here. So when you have an element, you can also just do dot attributes, that's plural, and it'll give you an array-like object of all the attributes on there. So it's going to be there are going to be quite a few things often in this. In this case, it's going to have our ID, our source, our width, our height. So we're going to grab the first element in this, and it says ID, and that's an object. And of course, we could do whatever, and it'll say it'll say node value is cat, or text contents cat, or value is cat, all that good stuff. So before we were using the number of the array, we said grab as item 0. Here we're saying grab as item width. So this is a little bit easier than sorting through the whole object. We're saying grab me that whole object, that array-like object of all the attributes, and then give me the width one. And it gives us 276. We can also just instead of using array notation, we could just keep using this property notation. So we say dot attributes dot width, and then we just want the value. So dot value. So super handy. No jQuery. Let's talk about element manipulation here. So we've already gotten into some of this. Once you have your element, what can you do with it? Well, you can grab inner HTML. We've seen that. We can grab outer HTML. So inner HTML will grab you the text in between your opening and closing tags. Outer HTML will grab the whole thing. It'll grab your whole tag here. You can insert adjacent HTML. So there are two parameters here. The second one is what you want to insert. So we're gonna say duty, like howdy doody, and then the first parameter is where do you want to insert it. And there are four options. It's before begin, before end, before begin, after begin, before end, after end. So that's a little bit weird, but it's just saying, are you going to put it before the whole tag, at the inside of the text, at the outside of the text, and then outside the whole tag? So those are your four options. So here we're saying before end, so that'll insert it here inside the text content, and we're saying duty. So we get howdy doody, and if you look at the elements here, it just kind of inserted a little text node, not a tag, just a text node right here inside the paragraph tag. What else do we have? Text content. So you can grab an element and then just grab the text content inside. So of course that's howdy in this case. You can ask what node type your element is. And that's going to return a number here. Here is a list of the different node types. So ours returned 1 because it's an element node. If you have a text node, it would return 3. Comment nodes are 8, so that just means a comment. If it's a full document, it'll be 9. All this kind of good stuff. It's kind of weird, but it's a nice way to test what kind of content, what kind of data you're getting. Here we can create a text node and then append that as a child. So we're saying grab me the first item here, which is P1, and then append P2 after P1. We can also remove child. So this is saying, yeah, you can do tricky stuff. Again, this is never quite as eloquent as jQuery is when you do this kind of stuff in native JavaScript. So here's a way to remove an element. You can grab an element and then say that element, go to the parent, go to the child, and then specify the element again. Super awkward, but it'll do what we need here, and it'll just remove our element. Okay, here are some additional document object properties. There's last modified, location, refer, title, and URL. So last modified says when the document was last modified. Location is the location object. That's the same as the window.location. Refer is blank in this case because this page didn't come from another page like Google or something, but if it did, document.refer would say what page it got referred from. Similarly, this page doesn't have a title tag, but if it did, that would be displayed with document.title, and document URL gives us the URL of the document. Okay, let's talk about scripting styles real quick. It's pretty simple to do, at least inline styles. You can grab your element and just say .style, whatever CSS style you want to tweak. So in this case, we're going to tweak the color and make it red. Like voila, it's pretty sweet. Yeah. Now check this out. A lot of properties in CSS are hyphenated. They're two words like margin left. You can't do the shorthand in this like you can in straight CSS. You know, I can't just do margin and then specify all four. You got to specify the specific margin, like margin left, margin top, whatever you need. And if you're using a two-word hyphenated CSS property, make them one word, drop the hyphen, and then use camel case. So it'll be lowercase margin, capital left, all one word, margin left. And so that just gave us a left margin. No jQuery. It's pretty nice. Okay, here we are getting the computed style. So this is a nice way of grabbing the styles of whatever item we need. So here we have a P on our HTML page, and it has a style on it with a margin left of 50 in the CSS. And then we're saying, hey, grab me this P element, and then notice this is a property of the window, not the document. Window.getComputedStyle P1, that's this guy, this variable, which contains our element, and then we're using null because we're not using a pseudo selector. You can put in weird pseudo selector stuff here, but if you're just talking about regular CSS like margin, you just pass null in as your second parameter, and then you do dot whatever CSS you need. So here it gives us 50 pixels because that's our left margin. So that's our second vid on scripting the document and scripting CSS.